Hi, my name is Daniele De Angelis, International Art Director for Tony & Guy and Label M.
Hi, my name is Chies Sato. I'm also International Art Director here in London Academy, also Label M. So here we are in the studio shooting for brand new collection, Duality. The look that both working on is the curve.
Now, with curves, what we want to do is following the contour of the head, and depending on the placement of those sections, you can start to target different area within the head shape in order for you to add strength or expand the texture or narrowing down. And it's all about bringing that individuality in your client base in a salon, but also push the boundary for modern hairdressing. What I'm doing today, I'm working on a shorter shape, and it's going to be about contrasting in length, working with blunt perimeter outline, working with more dynamic texture and the focal point around the front where it's going to be a little bit shorter.
I'm still working on exactly the same sectioning with Daniele, but what I'm doing is completely opposite. I'm doing much more longer lengths and much more softer, and again focal point is a 70s, really rounded graphic shape with internal layering on the top area.
Okay, so let's have a look at the step by step.
Before the cuts are started, a mapped out section pattern is placed in. Even though we are going to see two completely contrasting lengths and shapes, notice the similarity in the sectioning. Two C curvature sections are taken, one lower and one higher, from the front recession to behind the ear. This is repeated on the opposite side. It is the placements of these curved sections that is key to the end shape. From a central profile parting, two diagonals are taken from beneath the crown out to the hairline behind the ear. A fringe section is taken separating the front area. On Daniele's short shape, the key points are the heavier, stronger perimeter at the back, contrasting with the disconnected top layers. A shorter panel will be created through the curvature of the head for a narrow shape. Starting the technique in front of the ear and combing the hair to the natural fall, a 1 finger's depth of elevation is taken and the line is cut visually using the channeling technique. This will maintain weight but create softness on the line and can be varied by either leaving longer or taken shorter. This is then repeated on the opposite side. Once repeated on the opposite side, the balance is then checked. In contrast, Chia's working on the longest cut in the collection, which will have movement and volume, the focal point being a rounded stacked out fringe. Starting at the lower side section, a diagonal section is taken and the hair directed forward, held at a graduation level and cut from longer to shorter. Sections are then worked back and everything directed forward to this stationary guide. This will then be repeated on the opposite side and the balance is then checked. Once the sides are complete, Daniele moves to the back section and begins by cutting the perimeter blunt to the natural fall and cut square. Once complete, a central profile section is taken, hair is directed out at 90 degrees and the line is cut vertically. From there, a diagonal forward sections are taken and the hair is over directed to the previous, creating a square line when cross-checked. Keeping a consistency in elevation and finger position is key. This is reducing weight from the centre of this section, which will in turn push out towards the sides. Cross-check horizontally, always the opposite way of how it was cut. Again, in contrast, Chia works the back section from a central profile, elevates the hair to a high elevation and cuts a short to long line maintaining length. Everything is then directed to this to keep weight behind the ear. The length that you cut at again will always vary depending on the length of the final shape. Always make sure that the section is directed up with tension before relaxing the arm and cutting. By sectioning off before the cut is started, it really does help control, especially when working on longer hair. Now moving to the section through the sides, Daniele would create a shorter disconnected area, working from the back forwards. Horizontal sections are held out at 90 degrees and cut to create a much flatter feeling to the head shape. Sections are then worked forward, parallel to the first. This disconnected area is then created on the opposite side. This is an example of, by bending the rules learnt in future foundations, we create the new. On the same area, Chia is taking a more freehand approach. Using the underneath as a guide and starting at the front, the hair is slightly twisted and slide cut through. The hair is then directed to this from the back, building up length. Proportions and decisions of what length to take are key. You can always make these shapes within the collection stronger by normally taking shorter, or indeed softer by leaving a little longer. Here is an example of a cutting technique using a combination of technical and visual methods. The fringe area is a focal point of both shapes. Daniele has taken the fringe area shorter. First combing the hair to the natural fall, the line is cut square using a point cutting technique. This will create a transparency to the edge. This is worked one side and then the other side to the required length. On the longer shape, the sections are cut longer. The first elevated out from the hairline, held low and blunt cut. Once the length is established, subsequent sections are directed to the first guide, this time elevating higher and cut. As the sections are worked back, the elevation raises each time. This works a roundness and softness to the line, encouraging movement. Again, on the longer shape, it's really the fringe area that gives the cut the 70s influence, by combining the roundness and the way the hair moves, and by maintaining weight within it. As the sections are worked back, notice how the elevation raises so not to achieve a too heavy result, also encouraging the hair to move back away from the face. Now progressing through the top, Daniele is starting at the back. Horizontal sections are taken and the hair is elevated high, and the slice cutting technique is used, creating texture and movement. This is then worked on the opposite side and continued up across the top of the head shape. This creates a shorter, more textured feeling through the top area. Continue to work this until the fringe area is reached. Again, it's this approach to hairdressing that has always been part of Tony and Guy. By trying new things, it keeps us all on the learning curve, and when you are learning new skills, it's this that leads to keeping inspired. This technique is then continued across the top, working down towards the face, making sure a consistent amount of weight is released. Chia works the top area by starting behind the fringe. Horizontal sections are taken and elevated high, and by using the previous cut side area as a guide is continued shorter to long. Sections are worked back around the head shape, directing the hair forwards to the guideline, again maintaining weight towards the back. This form of layering gives a 70s inspired feeling, reminiscent of bands like the Ramones and made current by model Steffi Argelech. The length chosen will change from client to client depending on suitability, face shape and how strong visually the desired end shape will be. By maintaining clean sections, consistency in distribution and elevation, a balanced shape will be achieved. This shape can constantly be varied by deciding on different lengths and thinking about where, when dried, the hair will fall to. In this case, Chia is working at a longer length because of the longer baseline length. The longer shape's perimeter is cut to the required length by combing the hair to the natural fall, held between the fingers and cut square. The hair is then broken up by using a combination of brick cutting through the front area and twist cutting through the internal shape. This creates an increase in movement and increases the seamless blend between the internal layers, enhancing that 70s feeling. When brick cutting, small portions are cut from within the perimeter, releasing weight and encouraging even more movement. The same with the twist cutting, maintaining discipline in where and how the weight is removed. The hair is twisted first, the scissors are then half closed, working up through the hair, releasing only some of the hair, which again will only add to the end texture and movement. Now the colour is complete, and in preparation of the finishing, product is first applied. On Daniele's shorter shape, label M Volumeuse is evenly distributed to give hold and also texture as the hair dries. On the longer shape, label M Sea Salt spray is used on wet hair, creating a drier, looser texture, combining with label M curl cream that is applied throughout, which will define and control the movement. The label M Professional Hair Care range is the perfect range to help create the textures of today, allowing the Tony and Guy International Art Team and our clients creative choices in continually progressing and changing in their direction with hair. Chia, simply twisting sections and a diffuser bringing out the curl, but preventing the finish becoming too big. On the shorter shape, a label M brush is used to give direction and smoothness at first to the finish. Once the hair has been dried, any detailing and personalising can take place. This is approached with total individual suitability. It is the opportunity to create texture, detail focal points, enhance areas of the shape and combines a whole variety of techniques. Daniele starts by strengthening the hairline, eliminating the softness behind the ear, then working to detail into the sides before creating more defined pieces within the fringe area. By using the points of the scissors, it enables you to either cut straight down or across the hair to exaggerate the texture. The internal shape is then point cut throughout the back and top, creating more texture within the shape. There is always a control and technique with texturizing. The longer look was already personalised before drying, so to finish and define the texture, as well as add moisture, label M Therapy Rejuvenating Oil is worked into the hair. With the longer cuts within the collection, we progress as much with the finishing and usage of the products as we do with the cutting techniques and colours. As the official sponsors of London Fashion Week, each annual collection are always inspired from what the art team have created and seen on the catwalks from around the world. On Daniele's cut, to exaggerate and smooth the texture, the label M Titanium Pro 50 styling iron is used throughout. These amazing irons simply glide effortlessly through, leaving an immaculate finish. Details around the fringe can now be taken care of, and in this case widening the fringe area, which strengthens the front focal point. To finish, label M Power Paste is applied throughout, creating definition and texture. And that completes the technique of the curves, part of the Duality collection. Two completely contrasting lengths approached with the same original section pattern. On the longer shape cut by Chia, a longer 70s inspired shape creating soft defined movement and volume, the focal point being a rounded stacked out fringe, cut with a combination of over-directed layering, disconnected panels that are then visually blended throughout utilising twist cutting. Brick cutting used at the sides to encourage movement, then sea salt spray and curl cream used to finish. With Daniele cut in the shorter shape inspired by the late 60s and early 70s Chelsea girl skinhead, again combining strong perimeters with textured internal shapes. The upper curved sections cut to create flatness and the shorter textured fringe again a focal point. As part of the Duality collection, the concept of total freedom and utilising section patterns as a means of controlling technique allows complete creative expression. An example of this was the decision to further strengthen the cut by removing the side length. It is this freedom of creative approach to hairdressing and in what we offer our individual clients that enables us to be forever progressive in our collections year on year. To begin with, a horizontal section was taken at the sides. Utilising a comb, a length was cut using the scissor over comb technique. Once this was detailed in, a strong line was worked by elevating the hair down and cutting from the high point of the ear through to the fringe area. This was then repeated on the other side. This very simple change has a dramatic effect and is a great example of how details within our cuts allow us to create looks from softer to a much stronger directions. With Duality, it's about freedom of expression to create, but having discipline to begin with from the form of a sectioning pattern.